Let's go.
Stop.
Pets, nothing at all. So where's she going to get her business from? And she went headfirst into buyer seminars. I couldn't think of buyer seminars.
Nope.
And the cool thing about that is lots of people have tried and they failed. How do you get people to show up? What if the people showing up aren't legit? How do I get the word out? Well, Kimberly went from 0 to just shy of 12 million in 12 months in a brand new market without having any pets or friends or loved ones with buyer seminars. How did she do it? And how is she now pivoting her business in the age of coronavirus? Let's talk about it. Thanks, Kimberly. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me on. I just want to set the record straight. I do have a dog. I love him very much. So
she moved with the dog.
Okay, good.
Right now.
All right. Well, I'm glad you have a dog because that would make me even sadder. So we're glad that you're with us today. We're excited to talk to you about your success, and everybody is curious about how you are performing at such a high level with buyer seminars. So let's talk about how you used to do them, and let's talk about what you're doing now for the time being.
Cool. So just kind of a quick background. In July of 2018, I started doing these first-time homebuyer workshops at a local brewery. So this was actually, I started about a month before I moved to Boston. Moved to Boston in August of 2018. Didn't know anybody here. I mean, I knew like 2 people, but that's not an SOI to work for a new business. So I bought my first house when I was 24. My agent didn't really walk me through the process at all. There was so much I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that you don't pay your buyer's agent. And I kind of like came from this mindset of I never want anybody. My agent didn't really walk me through the process at all. There was so much I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that you don't pay your buyer's agent.
Sorry.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
So,
I was trying to get the YouTube link. My bad. Keep going.
Okay.
So I didn't want anybody to have the same experience that I did when I bought my first house. And there's so many real estate agents here. We're one of the only MLSs in the country that you don't have to be a realtor to be part of the MLS. So with that, there's a lot of people that aren't really subscribing to any type of code of ethics, all sorts of interesting practices. So I started in July 2018, me and my lender partner. And then since then, we've pretty much been doing them every single month. And towards the end of the year, last year, we started doing them twice a month because it just became such a great source of business for me. And so 2019 was my first full year in the Boston area. And I wrapped up the year at about 11.6 million in volume.
Wow, good for you. That's incredible. So that's like unheard of with what you're doing, because what I love about what Kimberly's doing is, she's basically like bypassing all of that internet lead gen follow-up, stuff that we all are kind of conditioned to do. And she's getting right in front of really, qualified potential buyers, right? So talk to us about how you're primarily promoting those seminars.
Yeah. So my first test of even doing these before I moved to the Boston area specifically, I was living outside of Boston, about 40 minutes away, for a couple months before I moved. Prior to that, living in Maine. And I tested a few like at my office, and I realized like it kind of hit me, like there was a sunny day on like in May. It was the first nice day we'd had in a while, and nobody showed up. And I was like, you know what, like who wants to come to a real estate office on a weekend, like when it's nice out? So that's where I got the idea of doing it at a local brewery. Like, where's a cool place that younger crowd can come hang out afterwards, which has been a cool partnership with us to have with the breweries. We're bringing a lot of business for them. And all of my advertising driving traffic there has been strictly through targeted Facebook ads.
So all of the traffic is strictly through specifically targeted Facebook ads. And so, but you're using Eventbrite to kind of collect information on these people, right?
Yep. So the process is that there's an ad that I run on Facebook, and it sends them to Eventbrite. and they have to register through there. So initially in the beginning, I just did register email name. That was it. And from the very beginning, my coach was so great about encouraging me to really track my numbers. So I knew how many people would register, what my conversion to attendance would be. And then over time, as I started to get clients out of this, I started to realize like what was my conversion of converting people to clients, what like bucket would people fit in. There's always a handful of people that are kind of ready to go in the next few weeks to a month. Then there's another segment of people that are like maybe the 6 to 9 month range. And then we've got a lot of people that are further out. So like even now I'm working with people that I met in 2018 and they're just buying now because I've really inserted myself into the very beginning of the process, and I'm coming at them with value, like all value up front before I'm asking for anything. So by the time they are ready to sit down, have a meeting with me, they already know, like, and trust me at that point. So it's like some of the funnest clients that I've ever worked with and some of like the easiest transactions that I've ever had, because they really trust me and they trust my advice, which makes it so much smoother throughout the transaction. So back in January, I actually started helping one of my referral partners that's in Central Mass. They're out in Worcester. They wanted to implement these events too. And so they kind of took it, played with it, and they started asking for phone numbers with the registrations, which I had always been afraid to do. And they had really great success with it. So I implement that now, and it's really increased my like conversion to attendance because I'm aggressively texting people, hey, we only have a few seats left. Make sure you confirm if you're going to be there. And then I've also got all their information for afterwards if they don't show up, because I put them on another plan from there.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, you have a question, Tristan? Go ahead.
I wanted to see the process of you putting it up online as an event. Do you create a Facebook event off of it, or do you create specific ads, or do you do both? And where do you lead them to? How does the Eventbrite page look?
Yeah, so because I've measured this all, I have all the numbers on it. At the beginning, I thought when I first started, I was doing a Facebook ad and an event, and I was boosting through the event. And it was funny because I thought areas where I was getting the most traffic from, when I went back and looked at the numbers, I really wasn't. It wasn't good money spent. I wasn't getting a good ROI on it. And so all I've really streamlined it down to is just running a Facebook ad. And the key thing here that I think has been really helpful is I created my event as a separate thing. So the ads don't run through my street property team page. They don't run through like Kimberly Meserve Realtor, any of that. I've created this event. So we call it Brews and Buying. I made a Facebook page specific for Brews and Buying. I put all the content there, all the information, all the ads run from there. And so I think people are a little bit more open-minded to like actually coming, because they don't think, oh, it's some realtor, until of course they meet me at the event. And so the ads run through Facebook, running through that Brews and Buying page. They go to Eventbrite, and then I check in with them, follow up with them from there.
So you made a specific page for this, and then you're running the ads through that. Do you change the page, or is it just one page that you're making for all events, or is it a new page every time?
No, it's one page for all events. So it's Brews and Buying First Time Homebuyer Workshop. And then I've just really started to like position it as being like Massachusetts' biggest first time homebuyer workshop. So at first it was like Boston's. And then as I've added my partners in that are referral partners, they're doing events through that page too, which is pretty cool. And so we're just driving all the people there as a resource.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because, you know, when I was living in New Jersey, I was running, you know, market update ads and home value ads. And I created a specific page that was like, you know, Bloomfield home values or Montclair home values. And when you, I think, create a page that offers information and it's aside from your realtor page, like you've got Brews and Buying or Brews and Home Buying, it looks like essentially a company that does buyer seminars, right? And I think that's really powerful. Like and it's interesting, right? Like, have you tried it? The first time you tried it, did you try it just from your regular realtor page before you knew any better?
Yeah. So the first few that I tried, I did it through my regular realtor page. I did it at my office, and it was just not great turnout. And so I had this longer term vision too of this being really something bigger than myself. Like I didn't really want it to be attached to myself in the long run, because now I've positioned myself to like, I can take this in a lot of different directions. I can add in partners, I can bring it to other markets. So once I started like formulating this idea and developing it, I wanted it to be something bigger than myself.
And can you spell out the name of the page so people can take a look at it?
Yeah, it's Brews and Buying. I have to look it up.
Brews as in REW. Some of the questions here, Kat, she's saying with allowing other people to run events through your statewide page. She's not allowing people to run events through that. She's saying that she created a Facebook page called Brews and Buying, which she runs her targeted buyer seminar ads from. She doesn't allow other people to do it. It's just her. Obviously, she's the featured realtor at the event. And yes, she does get permission from the bar that she holds the seminars at. No, she just shows up with 50 people and, can I get a table for 50? And then stands up and goes, I am a realtor. No, yes, she organizes it. Yeah, she organizes it. It's planned out. It's very thought out. And you even have vendors there, right? Like maybe you'll have a lender or an inspector, things along those lines.
Yeah. So just to back up, to clarify, so I have a referral partner that has just been we've been a great source of business back and forth. They're outside of my area that I would service, and they wanted to do the events as well. And so I taught them the system, and they run their ads through my page. They're not running the events. They're just running the ads. So it's just this like entity in itself. It's just Brews and Buying, and then they're hosting the events themselves. So to your point about the brewery, yes, we aren't just showing up with a crowd of people. We have to pay the brewery. There's like minimums, and we have to book it in advance. I'm already booked out through the very end of the year because stuff fills up really quickly. And this is my like number one source of business too. And I know all my numbers around it. So I'm not just like la-di-da adding events here and there. I know how many events I need to do for the entire year, how many people need to attend, and what my conversion needs to be in order to hit my goal for the year.
So I tell the story about how you had an agent undercover show up at one of your, you had an agent from another company come and be all discreet. And at the end, he was like, what did he tell you at the end?
Yeah, so I had an agent show up, and I didn't catch it because, so you did ask me about partners, and I will just touch on that.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, I got off track. So it's primarily my lender and myself. I've talked to a lot of people. I've created a mastermind group around this because I have so many people reach out to me. And I think people tend to get like way too crazy on adding vendors in. Like I've talked to people that are like, oh, I have my inspector, I have my attorney, I have insurance, I have all these people coming. It's too much. It's too much information for these people. I find the number one thing that they really want to find out coming to these events is, what can I afford? Like, how does that whole mortgage process go? And what do I need to do to get started? They don't care about insurance. They don't really care so much about what the attorney does. Now I have my preferred vendors I work with. Every once in a while, my attorney will just stop by, chat for like 5 minutes or so. Every once in a while, my insurance guy will come and talk about those pieces of the transaction shortly, but the main feature is the realtor and the lender. And yeah, so I did have another agent show up. My lender handles all of the check-in and sign-in when we're getting the event set up. So we usually have a tight time frame because the brewery opens at 11:30. And so we're like trying to scramble to set up as the event also starts at 11:30. So I'm always doing like setup, and he does the sign-ins and giving people drink tickets. And an agent came, and he didn't use his brokerage email when he signed up. So I didn't know. And honestly, I don't have enough time to be like cross-checking every single person that registers and like looking them up on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, I went and looked at the registration sheet, and I saw that it was an email address from another brokerage. And at first I was like, mother effer, like, how dare and then I was like, you know what? Like, there's so much business out there for everybody. Let me just, I'm gonna send him a text and just know if he has any follow-up questions. And you know, obviously, there's always an opportunity to just be bringing people into our world as well. And he gave me some really great feedback. He was like, "Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Like, I just felt really awkward, like telling you, but I was so curious about what you were doing." And I was like, "Oh, no worries." And he was like, "Honestly, like I came to see what the event was all about and how we could do it. And I was just so blown away by the system that you guys have that like, I don't even think I can attempt to do this," which was a huge compliment.
That's really sweet. I wanted to show your site because people are asking how it looks and how they should be doing this. So just a quick glimpse as to how it looks. This is Brews and Buying. And so somebody wanted to see, well, what is she posting? This is what she's doing here.
That's so cool.
She had an Eventbrite link right there.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how you're going virtual, you know, for the foreseeable future.
That's how it looks. She has this one set. And so she just links the ad over to Eventbrite and people can get the ticket there, sign up.
Is your next one going to be Quarantine and Cuervo? I'm just curious if that's
a
what the next one's going to be called.
Yeah. So how are you pivoting to doing this more online?
Yeah. So don't really have a choice right now, right? So I got an email Tuesday or Wednesday that the brewery, the tap room is closed for on-site consumption. So our event that was already scheduled for this Sunday, along with our April 5th event, are not going to be happening in person. At that point, I already had about 20 people, maybe 25 people registered. And so this is like all my numbers for the year are really based on this. So I'm not just going to say, oh, too bad, no event.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're switching it to be an online event. I've set up a Zoom. I'm going to be sending everybody the materials ahead of time. So one thing that kind of we do a little bit differently is we don't do any PowerPoints. That was a lesson I learned really quickly in the first few ones that I did at my office. Is a PowerPoint is the easiest way to lose engagement. People just sit there, their eyes glaze over. So we actually have workbooks for everybody. I wish I had one right here that I could show you guys.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so it's like a 20-page workbook. It has, we went through and pretty much outlined the whole process. What's every single thing we want to talk about? And then we took certain things out, left areas for them to take notes, fill in the blank. So like, I'll give you an example. We have a section that's just like, what's the minimum credit score you need in order to buy? And then we're creating engagement during the class through that by like prompting people, hey, like prize for first person that knows the answer to this or makes a guess. So it's keeping people really engaged. And so I'm going to be sending the workbook material out ahead of time. We're just going to do a Zoom and have it be same as normal. I just got to keep going. And I have over like 60 people signed up already. So it should be pretty cool.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. So you have 60 people signed up with phone numbers?
Yeah.
And do you ask for the phone numbers in the Eventbrite link for all of
what
information do you ask for?
Yeah, so in order for them to register, they have to put their name, phone number, and email down.
Nice.
That's amazing. And it's also not optional. You have to leave the phone number.
Exactly.
Or else you can't register. And I think that's amazing. So you're going to send everybody a copy of the booklet via email, and you'll kind of like go over, just do the whole process, you know, seeing all these people in front of you, which is, I think it's fantastic. So, you know, there's a couple, well, let's talk about what you cover, right? What do you cover during the buyer seminar? Is it everything from like pre-approval to looking for the house, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So let me just walk you through it off the top of my head. So we usually start by talking about the market, what's going on in the market, and like my whole thing is just educating people as much as possible. I feel like there's always people that their friends are maybe just bought or their parents are telling them things. And so our goal is to really like get them the proper information and educate them on what's really happening. So we talk about the market, like what are you guys hearing? What does everybody know about what's going on in the market? And then we like dive into some of the things that are just like a little bit deeper. So when people hear seller's market, they think, oh, better time to be a seller. That's not necessarily the case. So where I'm explaining like just big picture absorption rate, how we're looking at the month supply translating to a buyer's market, a balanced market, or a seller's market, talking about how a buyer's market doesn't necessarily mean it's a better time to be a buyer, because a lot of times in a buyer's market, we're seeing higher interest rates. So then we talk about like, how does the interest rate affect your buying power? So we're talking about the market, tax benefits to buying. Obviously, some of the obvious benefits, like you own the place and you can do whatever you want to it. And then we're spending a huge chunk of time talking about financing. So a big concern in our market, because it has been so competitive, is people are really nervous when they hear, oh, properties are going $20,000, $30,000 if we're asking. And we're talking about how does that really translate to your loan? Because a lot of times an extra $10,000 is really only like 20 something dollars a month on your mortgage payment. So we're getting into that, and it leaves a lot of people thinking like, oh, okay, this is a little less scary. The other thing we go over is, I'm not going to give away all my tools to get offers accepted.
Yeah,
but
you don't have to give it all away. People have to, here's the thing. People have to also kind of think for themselves. Like every market's different. Everybody does business different. If you've sold houses, you got to go through the process. If you know your market, you got to go through the process. Kimberly, I don't want you to, give away every single teeny tiny thing you do down to like the microscope, because, as agents, we have to really be passionate about it too, right? Like if, what you have is very scalable, right? And there's obviously a model for it. But at the same time, like anything, it's about consistency. So how many buyer seminars did you do last year?
Last year, I think I ended the year at about 20.
Okay, you did 20. So let me just go back. You did 20 buyer seminars, which means she's doing almost 2 a month. This is her primary source of lead generation. This is basically all she does, right? So if this is going to be your one of your main lead generation sources, you're essentially setting up a new buyer seminar every 2 weeks. It's a lot of, it's very exhausting, and it's not for everybody. And that's why most people don't do it, because you can't just do a one-off. Like, you have made this your business model, right? And this year you had planned to do how many? But now you could do virtually. Oh my gosh, that's such leverage.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I just sat down the other day and looked at numbers and just shifting things around. So at minimum, we're going to do 24 total this year.
Okay, you actually might probably do more considering.
Yeah, so I'm really curious to see how it goes virtually. One thing that you actually suggested to me, which has been really cool in just increasing the quality of attendance, is we are doing suggested donations to the animal rescue.
Oh, yeah.
And the amount of people that are donating is just, it's really cool. And that brings another level of commitment. So there's less people that are just flaking last minute. They're really showing up, even if it's just $5, but if you spend $5, you're a lot more apt to show up. So that's increased my quality of lead. So I'm curious to see how it goes this weekend. I'm really excited. And at minimum, we'll do 24 events, but we kind of booked like the first half of the year back in January, and they were already filled for some summer stuff. So like nice. June and July, I only have one event a month. And so I had to do like 3 events in a couple other months to make up for that. Yeah. But now I'm seeing an opportunity of like, okay, we have one in-person event. Maybe now we can add in an extra virtual event or 2 based on how it goes.
What's your average cost for this, for when you're running it with a brewery?
Yep. So our brewery, because we've been doing it so much with them, their minimum bar tab with us is around like $400 or $500, I think. My lender pays that cost. So we split the cost. I pay for the advertising, he pays for the brewery, and it pretty much ends up being 50-50.
Nice. And how long do the seminars last?
It's about an hour and a half-ish, depending on how many questions. We've had some that like really pushed that time limit because people just got really engaged and they were asking a lot of great questions.
So the thing is, like, I feel like, it's a testament to, first of all, it's a testament to a couple things. One of the things is, just how much need there is for buyers to work with agents, right? I mean, while you're not branding it to your specific realtor page, I mean, they assume that there's going to be a realtor there. I mean, they have to, right? Or else how can someone get the information across? And then they've met you face to face. 78% of consumers say they'll work with the first agent they meet. You are meeting them and you're giving them 90 minutes of total value and information, and you're giving them a takeaway, which is this booklet of the entire class and all the information. I mean, you basically got everything in the bag. I mean, why would they choose anybody else at that point? I think it's totally insanely brilliant. And like I said before, the reason why most agents won't do this is because of the preparation and the knowledge that you have to have and the amount of effort that goes into doing something like this. It's a lot of work to most people. Someone says she charges $5. It's a donation. It's not mandatory. So she might partner with a charity, and she finds that if she asks for a $5 donation, she gets a much higher quality of potential buyers, because even though $5 isn't a lot, it's still money, right? And so people that are willing to donate to a charity are typically have money. That's the point.
And it's a suggested donation, so there's an option for them to sign up for a free ticket as well.
The donation's taken through the Eventbrite, right? It's not taken through at the door. Yeah, it's taken through the Eventbrite.
And then in regards to ads, Kimberly, how long do you? Well, how early do you start running the ads before the event?
Yeah, so usually like 2 to 3 weeks I found is really the best result. Before I've been just doing them strictly through Facebook Ads Manager, but this week I'm actually starting to really play around with doing them in Command too, as I've had a little bit more time. So I'm curious to see how that all turns out.
Awesome. All right. And do you do it in the same place all the time, same brewery, or do you switch it up?
Yeah, so for a while we were going back and forth between 2 breweries, but one of them actually closed down. So we pretty much just have it at the same place, because you have to have enough, like a space where they can be. And a lot of the smaller, like very new breweries just have a small like tap room space. So we don't have like a semi-private space. So where we are, we have a semi-private space. It's like totally sectioned off. We can fit about 40 people. And then because I've been doing them so long there, we've kept our price pretty similar, but they actually charge a lot more normally for events than what we're being charged. One thing I did do in the very beginning was a lot of times if you reach out to a brewery, they'll tell you this is what it costs. And I kind of negotiated that a little bit. I was like, what's your slowest time? Like, when can we be bringing some more people that you could maybe give us a discount on doing the event?
That's pretty awesome.
What day of the week do you find is best?
So I've only ever done them Sundays from 11:30 to 1, because that's the cheapest time we can get.
Oh, all right.
Like Sunday or anything. That's what it is.
All right. So no specific day. I love that, because that was actually the most asked question. So I had to ask that.
She does them at 3 o'clock in the morning, if anyone's wondering.
The ads that I showed on your page, is that the ad that you're also running? The one that?
No, those are just posts that I've made. The ad that we run doesn't show up on the page because it's done through Ads Manager.
So let's just give everybody an idea of how successful these are for Kimberly. So right now, it's March 21st or March 22nd. No, March 20th. Right now, Kimberly's, can I tell you what your pipeline looks like? You mind?
It's actually different than what you know. It's gone up.
Different. It's more now?
Yeah.
Okay, so Kimberly's pipeline, which she tracks, in what's it look like right now? Potential GCI.
So I'm up to 540,000 in my potential GCI.
She's up to 540,000 for 2020, and it's only March 20th. And what that means is anyone in her pipeline, people she's actively talking to, people that she's actively showing homes to, people that she's actively under an agreement with. So it's all different stages, but listen, will all of that turn into closings? I mean, no, probably not. But the fact that she has a pipeline of actual deals in contract and actual active buyers looking for a house, and people that she's in constant communication with on a regular basis, and it's over $500,000, pushing 600,000, and it's only March 20th. I mean, the only way to that point is doing this all the time. And that's why most agents won't do it, because it's much easier to put $10 behind a Facebook ad and call a lead than it is to prepare an entire class and do this twice or 3 times a month and do a whole presentation. And most agents don't have the knowledge of the market or the transaction itself to do it. So before you do it, just do yourself a favor and just be prepared for any question that's going to come up to you, and make sure you know the home buying process inside and out. Like asking somebody for their class isn't going to do you any good, because it's not information that you know, right? You have to know what's going on in your market, and you have to know how homes are bought and sold in your market, like the back of your hand.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people to attend that have, like, it's kind of funny. I think people actually go to multiple buyer workshops, which I that's not my personality. I would go to one and call it done. But I've had a few people show up that have been to 2 or 3, and they're like, this was by far the most informative one I've been to. Like, we feel like this is an option. Like, I've had a ton of people say they came and thought that it was going to be a 2-year thing for them, and they ended up buying within months because they realized how realistic it was. The other part of that too is make sure you get yourself a lender who really understands like creative financing. And I don't mean like weird loans. I mean like closing costs credits, buy downs, like all that creative things that first-time buyers a lot of times need. I didn't really realize how smart my lender was until I had a couple clients that were working with different lenders, because most of my deals are with my lender. And I was asking someone, a lender, about, what does it look like if we got a closing cost credit instead of reducing the price? What's the numbers going to come out like? And he was trying to convince me, no, just reduce the purchase price instead. And I was like, how do I know more about mortgages than this lender does?
That's so good. Oh, you're on mute.
Do you have any support, or do you do this all on your own? Any assistants, virtual assistants?
Yeah, so right now it's pretty much just me. I do have a transaction coordinator, but I've kind of hit my capacity. So I have 66 buyers in my pipeline right now in all various stages. And we're just like pedal to the metal on hitting our goals this year. So I'm in the process of hiring a virtual assistant through Cyberbacker, and they're going to be taking over a lot of the prep, like setting up ads, all that kind of admin database management stuff. And then eventually in the next few months, I'll be bringing on a showing agent as well.
So one Pincombe who left a comment, he said that he hosted a buyer seminar after learning from you, and he signed 4 buyers and went under contract with one of them after a week after the event. So that's a huge testimonial to how he took away from you. And oh, by the way, I remember, this is what I'm going to forget because I forgot before, when you said that you had buyers, you had clients, well, consumers who went to other seminars before yours. You said that they said yours was the best and they didn't learn much. And the one thing that you learned was a lot of those people doing buyer seminars talk about themselves a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't really talk about myself, and I really just say, like, I run a team. By team, I mean, it's really me and my transaction coordinator and some showing help. And this is what we cover. We just do these events every month if you have any friends that find it valuable. But it's really not about me. It's not about pitching what I'm doing. I'm just there to really show my value through delivering the education, because then it's a no-brainer for them.
The thing is, like, you can stand up there and say, I've sold 500 homes this year and did $100 million, or you can just start talking and the information flows out of your mouth and the people are like, whoa, this person's an expert. That's all it takes. You know what I mean?
And like, I've had a lot of clients say, like, we're so grateful we met you, because we feel like a lot of the real estate agents that we've met are really like sleazy or like are just not honest. And
no.
Shocker, right?
What? No.
So Kimberly, couple of questions here, just so we have some clarity on
my camera's blurry.
After, what is it that you, on follow-up, when this is done, how do you follow up with them? How do you stay in touch with them? Do you do a hard close at the end of this, or are they coming up to you and saying, I want to work with you?
Yeah, so my follow-up system has evolved a little bit. In the beginning, like the first few times, I felt like my number of appointments that I was setting was really high. Because I was really focused on the appointment at first, but over time, I've been really focused on the quality and making sure they're really qualified before I meet with them, because I don't have the time now to be sitting down with people that are like 2 years out in the process. And so at the end of my event, I basically just say like, you know, if this was valuable for you and you're ready to get started, if you're within like a 1 year timeline of getting started in the process, I do have a sheet up here. It has some time slots if you want to set up a time for us to meet and sit down and talk about what your search is going to look like. Now, lately, I've been really pushing them to my lender first, because I want to make sure that before we're sitting down, they have a budget, because it's not a valuable use of my time if they have no idea what they can afford, but they're telling me they want a 5-bedroom condo in downtown. Like, it's just not realistic. So most of the people are really starting by meeting with my lenders. I do, however, have every time maybe 1 or 2 groups that they've either had some type of pre-qualification type thing through their work, or they're just really educated about their credit score. They've done all the research about what they're looking like for a budget. Like, as long as we have kind of a range, like that we're in some type of range, even if that has to change once they do get the actual pre-approval, if we're in that ballpark, I will meet with them. So my follow-up afterwards pretty much just looks like anybody that I set an appointment with. So usually that's 2 or 3 appointments per event. I will confirm, hey, we're good to meet this day that you scheduled. And then anybody who I did not set an appointment with, I follow up with them and I basically just text them, hey, thanks for coming. Would you like me to get you set up on a preliminary search? And that's a really good opening question for me finding out like where they're at in the process. So instead, I used to be a little bit more aggressive, like, hey, how long are you thinking until you make a purchase? And now I found that just being openly offering a search, they'll reveal a lot of that information themselves. They may say, you know, we're not quite ready yet. We're maybe like 2 years out, or yeah, actually, I think by the end of the summer, we're really going to want to buy in Dorchester. Can you set us up on a search for that? And then I can transition into that budget. Like, oh, okay. Like, have you gotten pre-approved yet? Do you know what your budget would be? And then I'm making sure to get them back in touch with my lender. So, in choosing your lender, like my lender probably helps me just as much with my lead gen as I'm doing on my own, because he's also following up with those leads too. So that's huge. Another thing I'm doing too is I sit down and I cross-reference. So I have a list of everybody that registered. I have on that list, I keep track of who has confirmed that they'll be attending, who has not responded. And then I'm cross-referencing the people that responded with who actually showed up, because there's always a handful of people that say they'll be there and then they don't show up. And so I'm putting those people that didn't attend on another list, and they're getting dripped on after that. So they're getting email updates about the next event. They're getting a mass text, hey, we have a few seats left, register for our next event. And then everybody, of course, goes in my database from there.
Are you also calling those that didn't show up saying, hey, I'm sorry I missed you, do you want to show up to the next one?
So I've actually really moved away from calling. It's all about knowing your audience, right? So a lot of these people are, I hate to use the term millennial because I am technically too, but I've found every time I sit down with people at the appointment, I always ask, how do you prefer to be communicated with? 98% of them would rather just be texted, and they're a lot faster at responding to text. So the people that did not attend, they go on to kind of like a text drip that's basically like, hey, sorry we missed you. And I like to make my messages like kind of funny and lighthearted. It's basically like, hope you didn't sleep through your alarm. If you did, like, here, we can set up a one-on-one appointment, or here's our next event. So I have text scripts for all of that.
And look, there's a lot of questions that are being asked that are repeats. So if you missed this, go on to our YouTube page. It's actually there live. And it'll go on 5 minutes after we're done. It'll replay again. So go to Lab Coat Agents YouTube page. It's there. That way you guys can go and watch the whole thing. Quick question. Yeah, are any of your buyers in your pipeline, do they have buyer agreements signed? or?
Every single person. I don't work with anybody unless I get a buyer agency agreement with them.
And how is that conversation, just so I understand it, is that done at the seminar, after, during, when?
Yeah, so my process is I set them up for an appointment after that. So anybody that meets for an appointment with me, an appointment looks like about an hour-long video chat. So the easy thing in all of this whole crazy coronavirus thing is that I was already doing a lot of my stuff virtually because we have such a big traffic issue here. And so I'll meet with someone, we go over criteria, what they're looking for, all that. And then I go into like a quick presentation about myself, how my whole team functions. And then I'm just really closing them at the end of that. Do you want to be a customer or do you want to be a client? So client, obviously, we're doing buyer agency. So then I just walk them through the paperwork and I send it through .loop. Obviously, so we have a couple of things, like we have a cancellation guarantee. So it's, honestly, at the end of the day, it's really a loyalty agreement, but I like to get my people into the mindset that they're committed to me and that I'm their agent.
Hey, you know what? Can I say something about buyer agency agreement? Here's why agents have a hard time getting those signed, because they're not proving their value beforehand, right? Like, why is a buyer going to sit down with you when you go, hey, here's my buyer agreement, and in order for me to represent you, I just need to know that you're going to be exclusive to me as your agent. Like, what the heck is all that about? You, first of all, are doing a 90-minute thing, just pouring into them. And I guarantee you that almost all the people in that room, if you said, hey, if you're looking to buy a house and want me to work with you and you enjoy, and you got a lot of value out of what I taught you, you would have probably most of the people in that room just sign it. You know what I mean? But you do sit down and you have that one-on-one with them. But just based on what you're teaching them, they're not going to get that from anybody else. That's why there's so much fun.
That's the key. Look at the processes that she has from the very beginning, right? Not only from creating that business page and running the ads and the Eventbrite, the charity, and getting them to the seminar, contacting them, then giving them the value that they need. Why wouldn't they sign anything she's asking them to? She's proven the whole value process.
Right. It's all there.
Yeah.
Because what happens, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say the cool thing is that it's also a barometer for me to get a sense of where they're at. So it's been very interesting. When I started in real estate, like when I was really young, I felt like I was just at the beck and call of all my clients. And now I feel like it's gone a complete other direction. And people are just so grateful for my time, which is really cool. And they're very respectful of my time. So the only pushback I get back on buyer agency is some people just say, hey, we're not quite ready yet. And we don't want to waste your time. But when we are ready, we definitely do want to become a client. And they do. So that's a good barometer for me to just gauge, like, okay, how serious are they? How ready are they?
You want to know why that they all of a sudden respect your time as opposed to when maybe they didn't before, is because you are now the expert. You are standing in front of them and you are just completely blowing away any beliefs that they had about realtors not knowing anything. And now they're like, now you are like up here to them, right? Like you're there, like, you know, you are what they need at this point. Oh, should we call Kimberly? I don't know. It's 7:30. Maybe she's eating dinner. I don't know. Maybe she went to sleep early. Let's just, okay, I'm going to call and I'm going to apologize, right? Because when people look up to others, that's how they act. So you've set that precedent, which is awesome.
Yeah. All right. Somebody's asking a simple question here. It's going to you. You may not know the answer. I answered it. How do you train them to not have the kids or pets or TV on in the background for virtual meetings? Do you find it difficult to get people to give you undivided attention during these meetings?
I've actually haven't had any issues with that.
I just say you mute them all if you're on Zoom.
Well, look, if you're on Zoom, you're like this, right? You're talking to the lender, you're talking to the audience, and anyone asking questions is already muted. We can't even see them. So you can bring them on into Zoom to talk like I'm talking to Kimberly, or they can just ask the questions on the chat. So
right.
That's a pretty easy one. Yeah,
or you mute them all. If everyone's a participant, because it's most likely a meeting. So if you're running a meeting on Zoom as opposed to a webinar, everyone's a participant and you just mute everybody as you're talking. And if somebody wants to ask a question, they can unmute themselves or ask a question in the chat, like you said. But Yeah, or I just say no cats or dogs or kids allowed on Zoom at all. It's not allowed at all. Sorry, just I don't say that. Hey, whose kid was that? You're not buying a house with me. Click. That's what I do. I don't do that. How much does Zoom cost? $1 million. No, it's all different prices. Go to zoom.us and there's a whole bunch of price points there. It depends on what level you want. I pay $109 a month for for the third level. But if you're spending, if it's your only form of like, if that's like the only expense you have, you know, it's worth it. You know, if you spend $1,200 a year on Zoom to run buyer seminars virtually, and you know do 11 million in volume, I think that's a good investment.
Look, somebody's saying, well, there's also Google Hangouts or Google Meet. I don't trust them. The quality of Google is just the visual quality is not that great. I would go with something more professional like Zoom, definitely. And if you want to test them out, they have a free version of Zoom as well. So just
personally, somebody asked, would you allow agents to attend? I don't think that that's the best practice, honestly. I know one guy snuck in and you figured it out, but I really don't think that if you're an agent, I don't think you should go and just observe. I just don't think that's the right way to go about it. I think that Kimberly's worked really hard to craft this and make it really good. And I think just going and watching her, no, I don't think that that's the way to go about that. I don't think it is. So I think if you have questions, you can ask her, but I think that she has perfected this, and to go and watch it for free, if you're an agent, I wouldn't be okay with that.
What do you think about Kimberly?
I've had a couple agents ask me if they can come. And I have allowed some people to that were like referral partners of mine, but we also have a capacity issue. So we only have 40 seats and I'm trying to fill every single one of those seats with the potential clients.
So be mindful of that for sure. Girl's got to eat. She got bills to pay.
Yeah. For real.
How much do you put in on most ads? And $10 a day, $5 a day?
So I was taught to base your budget on what your potential audience is. And I don't know how old school this is with the Facebook ads, but this is just what I've always done. So my potential reach is like around 30,000 people based on the targeting that I've included. And someone told me to just like take the first 3 numbers of that and that should be your budget. So I usually spend about $300 an event. That fluctuates from time to time, but pretty much that's the ballpark. So all together, each event, I think we're spending between like materials and the brewery and everything, it's probably around $1,000 per event split between myself and my lender.
Yeah, someone was asking, you know, what about doing this on Zoom? Would you allow agents? Listen, Zoom has levels, right? The more like there's only a certain amount of attendees you can hold. And so that's going to cost Kimberly money. Like if she has 100 attendee limit, and one of those people is an agent, that's one potential buyer that she could have had in there. So just be respectful of that fact. Don't sign up for her Zoom webinars and don't show up in person to her actual buyer consultations or buyer presentations. If you have questions, just ask her. But I would just be mindful of the fact that she's spending money and every seat counts, whether it's virtually or in person. So I'm gonna be the bad cop, Kimberly. I'm gonna be the bad cop.
Yeah.
On YouTube, I'm getting a couple of questions on the YouTube section, Kimberly or Nick, which one of you can answer this one? They're asking for, how do we get the book? I don't know what they're referring to. Is there a book?
Oh, no. So here's they want Kimberly's buyer seminar.
No, you're not getting
sell
that.
It to them.
No, you're not getting that, guys. That's a $500 value, easy, right, Kimberly? She'll send you the link. You can pay for it.
To buy it from me, they certainly can. But the thing is, honestly, guys, it's not a magic. There's no magic in the book. Like you guys all know this information as agents. Like the magic is really in the system, which is everything we're talking about.
Exactly.
You know every single step of the transaction, or at least you should. You know everything that you should be talking to clients about. So showing up at the event, you're not going to be learning anything new. You're just going to see that I like to talk to a crowd of people. And then the booklet.
Right. I have a 25-page buyer consultation booklet, right? And I've been asked so many times for my buyer consultation booklet. And I go, that's not going to do you any good. And you're an agent. If you're an agent selling homes, you know how the transaction goes. Just put it into a booklet, right? You know the first step, you know what goes in the middle, and you know the end. So asking for someone else's book does you no good at all. Just do what you do. Write down what you do. Put it in writing. If you need help, hire someone to help you write it. But having Kimberly's isn't going to do you any good.
Look, the easiest
Because it's not
thing to do is
organic.
your title company or your escrow company. They already have these pre-made for you. There's like
oh my gosh, yes.
10-page booklet. Just use those. Easy, done.
Boom, done. Do it. Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's wrap it up. Kimberly, anything you want to add now?
If anybody wants to reach out to me, I do have a mastermind group around this. If you reach
Oh,
out,
there you go.
I probably won't be answering one-on-one questions because I get about 5 to 6 people a week reaching out, asking questions, and it would just be a lot of my time. But I'm happy to add anybody into the mastermind group. And then if you have any referrals for the Boston area, I would absolutely love to be your resource.
I want to be in the mastermind
What's
group.
the mastermind group name so I can just put it on here?
Kristen's in the group. I don't know why you aren't, Nick.
Tristan's in the group and I'm not in the group? What's up with that? Is it a Facebook group? Is it a Facebook group?
It is. I'll make sure you're in there.
And
I
the
can't
name
believe
Someone
Tristan.
just posted it. It's FTHB Rockstar Master.
Oh my gosh, Kimberly, I'm very hurt right now. FT.
Rockstar. There it is, Kimberly. All right, just do me a favor. Oh, I'm already part of it? That's awesome.
Yeah, apparently you were added and I wasn't.
Thanks. Thanks for showing the world who you love more. Thanks, Kimberly. Appreciate that.
I hope this doesn't hurt our friendship.
You know what? I didn't need to be in the mastermind group because I talk to Kimberly every single day. So
Love it.
just saying.
I just posted to her group, so there you go. Kimberly, thanks for being with us. I appreciate it. We appreciate it as an industry. Unfortunately, we couldn't play it into Facebook, or you would have had 1,000 more views, thousands more. But
we're gonna play it on Facebook as a watch party.
Yeah, but we need you back on. So let's do this again in the future. You're rocking it. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.